Welcome to HOA Nuisance Files. I brought facts, not feelings. Sharon stormed out of the mailroom holding a broken box and screamed that I opened it. "This is your final warning," she said, jabbing one finger at my chest while her keyring jangled like a rattlesnake. The cardboard was shredded on one side, packing tape dangling, and my name was still on the label. I had not touched it. I confront Sharon about selective enforcement and she immediately pivots to theft accusations. She told me the HOA would launch a formal investigation, bill me for the cost, and suspend my gate access until I proved I was not stealing packages. Welcome to my life in Brookstone Village, Indianapolis, Indiana, where the gate access coordinator runs the mailroom like a personal fiefdom, and anything that goes missing becomes my fault. My name is Ben Harding. I work as a property maintenance supervisor for a commercial landscaping company, which means I am on the road most days and I get deliveries sent to my townhome constantly. Tools, parts, supplies. Brookstone Village is a high-density townhome complex where parking is a constant war, and the HOA enforces guest spots, overnight rules, and tow threats with zero mercy. Sharon Whitfield is the gate access coordinator, which sounds minor until you realize she controls who gets in, who gets towed, and who gets reported for every tiny violation. She has been here for 8 years. I have been here for 2. In those 2 years, I have watched her weaponize every rule, change every deadline, and humiliate residents in front of their neighbors whenever she feels like it. Sharon shook her keyring again, the sound louder than it needed to be. "I have already reported this," she said, her voice flat and final. "The complaint is logged. You opened a package that was not yours, and now the HOA has to investigate." I told her I did not open anything. I pointed at the label. "That is my name. That is my unit number." She tilted her head and smiled, the kind of smile that says she already decided I am guilty. "The box was open when I found it," she said. "You clearly took something out. I can make this official with one phone call." The threat was real. Sharon had suspended access cards before, usually for people she did not like. She had called tow trucks on cars that were parked legally but annoyed her. She had backdated notices so the cure window was already half gone by the time you saw the paper. And now she was threatening my gate access and parking rights, which meant I could lose the ability to get into my own driveway if she decided to escalate. I took a breath. "I need to see the complaint," I said. Sharon tapped her folder organizer. "I already submitted everything. It is in the system. You will get your copy when the board schedules the hearing." I asked when that would be. She shrugged. "Could be 2 weeks. Could be a month. In the meantime, you are on notice. If anything else goes missing, we will treat it as a pattern." She turned and walked toward the mailroom door, her trench coat swishing behind her. I stood there holding my torn box, my mind racing. This was not the first time something like this had happened. 2 months ago, a neighbor lost a phone charger from his porch. Sharon blamed the delivery driver and filed a police report that went nowhere. Last month, petty cash went missing from the clubhouse after a community event. Sharon ran the event. No investigation. And now my package was torn open and I was the suspect. I went back to my unit and opened the box fully. Inside was packing material and a receipt for a small Bluetooth speaker I had ordered 3 days earlier. The speaker was gone. The box had been slit along the bottom seam, not the top, which meant someone had opened it carefully and resealed it poorly. I checked my doorbell camera. The delivery confirmation showed the driver placing the box on my porch at 2:14 in the afternoon. At 2:18, Sharon walked up, picked up the box, examined it, and walked off-frame toward the mailroom. 4 minutes later, she returned and put the box back, but it was already torn. I saved the clip immediately. That was Tuesday. By Thursday, Sharon had escalated. I got a printed notice in my mailbox dated 3 days earlier, saying the HOA would bill me for the theft investigation, and that I had 72 hours to provide a written statement or face a formal hearing. The notice was printed on official HOA letterhead, stamped with a date that was impossible because I had checked my mail every day, and this was the first time I had seen it. She backdated it. I knew she backdated it. But proving it was another problem entirely. I called the property management company that handles Brookstone Village HOA. The woman who answered told me Sharon submits all enforcement notices directly, and that the management company does not review them unless someone appeals. I asked how to appeal. She said I had to request the hearing in writing within 5 business days of receiving the notice, but since the notice was dated 3 days ago, I only had 2 days left. I hung up and pulled out my manila folder, the one I started keeping after the first time Sharon tried to find me for a guest car that was parked legally. I had been documenting everything since then. Notices, emails, photos, doorbell clips. Now I had proof she was backdating enforcement and stealing packages, and I was going to use it. I printed the doorbell clip timestamp and the delivery confirmation, then added the torn box photos. I wrote a 1-page rebuttal and hand-delivered it to the management office Friday morning. The clerk took it, scanned it, and said someone would follow up within a week. I asked if I could see the original complaint Sharon filed. She said complaints are confidential unless the board approves release. I left frustrated but not surprised. Sharon had built a system where she controlled the flow of information, and no one questioned her because she had been doing it for years. That afternoon, Sharon showed up at my door. She was holding a handheld radio, the cheap kind you get at a hardware store, and she was talking into it like dispatch. Unit 214, I have a visual on the resident, she said into the radio. No response. She lowered it and looked at me. I need you to remove your doorbell camera, she said. It violates the HOA policy on exterior modifications. I told her the camera was allowed under the surveillance addendum. She shook her head. That addendum requires board approval for each device. You never got approval. I have already reported this. You have 48 hours to remove it, or the HOA will fine you $50 per day. I asked to see the policy in writing. Sharon pulled a laminated sheet from her folder organizer and held it up. The text was too small to read from where I stood, but she tapped it with one finger. Right here. Exterior modifications require written approval. Cameras are modifications. Remove it or pay the fine. She turned and walked away, radio still in hand, muttering something into it that sounded like unit logged. I closed the door and immediately checked the HOA governing documents I had saved as PDFs. The surveillance addendum explicitly allowed doorbell cameras as long as they only captured the owner's property. No board approval required. Sharon was lying, and she was doing it with props to make it look official. I emailed the management company again, attaching the surveillance addendum and a photo of Sharon holding the radio. I asked for clarification on the camera policy and pointed out that the notice she gave me contradicted the governing documents. The reply came Monday morning. The management company said Sharon is correct that modifications require approval, but the addendum does create an exception for doorbell cameras. However, if there is a dispute, the board has final authority. They suggested I attend the next board meeting, which was scheduled for 3 weeks from now, and present my case. 3 weeks. In the meantime, Sharon could keep threatening fines, keep escalating, keep framing me for theft, and I had no recourse except to keep documenting. Tuesday morning, I found another notice in my mailbox. This one said the HOA was moving forward with the theft investigation and that I was required to provide access to my unit for an inspection. The notice gave me 24 hours to comply. I called the management company. The clerk said she had no record of an inspection request and that Sharon would need board authorization for that. I asked her to confirm that in writing. She said she would send an email. By the time I got home that evening, Sharon was standing in the parking lot with 2 other residents, pointing at my car and talking loudly. I walked over. She stopped talking and looked at me. "We were just discussing the theft pattern," she said. "Your car has been seen near the mailroom multiple times during delivery windows." One of the residents, an older man I recognized from the pool area, frowned. "I have not seen anything," he said. Sharon ignored him. "The pattern is clear," she said. "The HOA will be reviewing security footage and cross-referencing access logs. If your card shows up during suspicious windows, that is evidence." I asked what security footage. "Brookstone Village does not have cameras in the parking lot." Sharon smiled. "The gate camera," she said. "It logs every entry." I pulled out my phone and opened the access log I had screenshotted from the resident portal 2 days earlier. The log showed my entries, all of them during normal hours when I came home from work. I held it up. "These are my entries. All of them match my work schedule. Do you have any entries that do not match?" Sharon did not look at the phone. "That is not the point," she said. "The point is you have access during delivery windows, which makes you a suspect." The older man shook his head and walked away. The other resident, a woman in her 30s, followed him. Sharon watched them go, then turned back to me. "You are making this harder than it needs to be," she said. "Just admit you opened the box and return what you took. The HOA will drop the investigation." I told her I did not take anything. I told her I had proof. She laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Your doorbell footage does not prove anything," she said. "You could have edited it. You could have staged it. The HOA will not accept fabricated evidence." I asked her what would count as real evidence. She tilted her head. "A confession," she said, "or a witness." "Do you have a witness?" I did not answer. She nodded, satisfied. I did not think so. She walked toward the mailroom, her key ring jingling with every step. That night, I went through my folder again. I had the doorbell clip. I had the delivery confirmation. I had the torn box. I had the backdated notice. I had the access log showing my entries. But Sharon was right about one thing. None of it was a smoking gun unless I could prove she was the one stealing. I needed something that tied her directly to the missing items, and I needed a witness who could not be dismissed. I started thinking about the petty cash that went missing from the clubhouse. Sharon had been in charge of that event. If she stole from the HOA itself, there might be a record, and if there was a record, someone else might have noticed. I reached out to another resident, a woman named Carla Mendez, who had helped run the event. Carla lived 3 buildings over and had complained publicly about Sharon before. I asked her if she remembered anything unusual about the cash handling that day. She said Sharon collected all the cash at the end of the event and said she would deposit it the next morning. Carla never saw a receipt. She never saw a deposit slip. She assumed Sharon had handled it, but when she asked about it 2 weeks later, Sharon told her the deposit was already done and the records were filed. Carla asked to see the records. Sharon said they were confidential. Carla dropped it because she did not want to fight with Sharon, but she always thought it was strange. I asked Carla if she would be willing to make a statement. She hesitated. "Sharon has a lot of power here," she said. "If I go against her, she will make my life hell." I told her I understood, but that I was already living in hell and I needed help. Carla thought for a moment, then said she would write down what she remembered and date it. She would not go to a hearing, but she would give me the statement to use if I needed it. I thanked her and saved the statement in my folder. Wednesday afternoon, I got a call from a tow company dispatcher. She said Sharon Whitfield had authorized a tow for my guest parking spot because a vehicle had been parked there overnight without a permit. I told her I did not have a guest parked there. She said the authorization came through an hour ago and the truck was already on the way. I ran outside. My guest spot was empty. I called the dispatcher back and told her there was no car. She sounded confused. She put me on hold, then came back and said Sharon called again and said the vehicle left, but the tow fee would still apply because the authorization was already processed. I asked how that made sense. She said I would have to take it up with Sharon. The fee was $95. I drove to the tow yard. The clerk, a man in his 50s with grease-stained hands and a clipboard, looked up when I walked in. I explained the situation. He pulled up the authorization on his computer and showed me the screen. The request was submitted by Sharon Whitfield, listed as Brookstone Village HOA Gate Access Coordinator, at 1:47 in the afternoon. The notes said the vehicle was a blue sedan parked in guest spot 14 overnight without a permit. I told him there was no blue sedan. I told him the spot was empty when the truck arrived. He frowned. "That is weird," he said. "Usually we get a photo with the authorization. This one does not have a photo, just the notes." He scrolled down. "The fee is still on the account, though. You would have to dispute it with the HOA." I asked if I could get a copy of the authorization. He printed it and handed it over. I looked at the timestamp. 1:47. I pulled up my own access log. I had entered the gate at 1:45, 2 minutes before Sharon submitted the tow request. I had driven straight to my unit and parked. My guest spot was visible from my parking space. There was no blue sedan. I showed the clerk the access log. He shook his head. "That does not make sense," he said. "If you were there at 1:45 and the spot was empty, how did she see a car at 1:47? I told him she did not. She made it up. He leaned back in his chair. "That is messed up," he said. "You should report her." I told him I was trying, but the HOA was not listening. He handed me a business card. "If you need a statement from us, call this number. We keep records of every authorization. If she is making stuff up, we can prove it." I thanked him and left. On the drive back, I called the management company again and reported the fake tow authorization. The clerk said she would forward the complaint to the board, but that tow authorizations are handled by the gate access coordinator, and the management company does not oversee them. I asked if that meant Sharon could call tow trucks whenever she wanted with no oversight. The clerk hesitated. "Technically, yes," she said. "The board delegated that authority to her. If you think she is abusing it, you need to file a formal complaint with the board and request a hearing." I told her I already filed a complaint. She said she would check the file and get back to me. Thursday morning, Sharon was waiting for me in the mailroom. She was holding a piece of paper and a stamp, the kind you use for official documents. She saw me and smiled. "I have good news," she said. "The board reviewed your complaint and determined that your evidence is fabricated. They are moving forward with the theft investigation and the camera violation. You will receive a formal hearing notice within 5 business days." She slammed the stamp onto the paper with a loud thunk, then held it up. The paper had a red stamp mark that said filed. She slid it into her folder organizer. I asked her how the board reviewed anything when the board meeting was not for 2 more weeks. She shrugged. "Emergency session," she said. "They met last night. You were not invited because you are the subject of the investigation." I told her emergency sessions require notice to all owners. She laughed. "Not when it is an enforcement matter," she said. "Check the bylaws." I asked to see the meeting minutes. She shook her head. "Minutes are confidential until the board approves them. You will get a copy after the hearing." I told her that was not how it worked. She leaned closer. "I can make this official with 1 phone call," she said. "If you keep pushing, the HOA will escalate to legal action. Do you want that?" I did not answer. She nodded and walked out, her key ring jingling. I went home and checked the bylaws. Emergency sessions do require notice unless the matter involves an immediate threat to safety or property. Theft could technically qualify, but the bylaws also require that the subject of an investigation be notified and given a chance to respond before any findings. Sharon had skipped that step entirely. I emailed the management company and attached the relevant bylaw sections. I asked for confirmation that an emergency session had occurred and requested the meeting minutes. The reply came 2 hours later. The management company had no record of an emergency session. Sharon had lied again. If you are enjoying this chaos, hit that like button and subscribe for more HOA revenge stories, where the receipts always win. I printed the email and added it to my folder. I now had proof Sharon was fabricating board actions, backdating notices, and lying about emergency sessions. But I still needed something that directly tied her to the theft. I went back to the doorbell footage and watched it frame by frame. At 2:18, Sharon picked up my box. At 2:19, she turned it over and examined the label. At 2:20, she walked off frame toward the mailroom. At 2:22, she returned with the box, now torn, and placed it back on my porch. 2 minutes. What did she do in those 2 minutes? I walked to the mailroom and looked around. The room was small, just rows of locked mailboxes and a counter with a package shelf. No cameras, no witnesses. But there was a storage closet in the back corner, the one Sharon used for HOA supplies. I tried the door. Locked. I pulled out my phone and called Carla. I asked if she had ever been in the storage closet. She said yes, during the event setup. Sharon had a key and opened it to get folding chairs. Carla remembered seeing boxes stacked in the back, but she did not pay much attention. I asked if she could describe the boxes. She said they were brown cardboard, like shipping boxes, and some of them had labels. I asked if she remembered any names. She thought for a moment. "I think I saw one with your name," she said. "Or maybe it was someone else in your building." I did not look closely. That was it. Sharon was keeping stolen items in the storage closet. I called the management company and asked if I could request access to the closet for an inspection. The clerk said only board members and authorized coordinators have keys. I asked if I could request a board member accompany me for an inspection. She said I would have to submit a written request and wait for board approval. I asked how long that would take. She said 2 to 4 weeks. I did not have 2 to 4 weeks. Sharon was escalating daily, and if I did not act fast, she would bury me in fake fees and frame me so thoroughly that no one would believe my evidence. Friday afternoon, I got another notice. This one said the HOA was moving forward with a formal hearing, and that I was required to attend on Monday at 6 in the evening. The hearing would address the theft accusation, the camera violation, and a new charge, trespassing in the clubhouse. I had never been in the clubhouse outside of community events. I called the management company. The clerk said the trespassing charge was filed by Sharon and that the hearing notice was valid. I asked what evidence Sharon had. She said evidence would be presented at the hearing. I told her this was insane. She said I could bring my own evidence and witnesses to the hearing. I spent the weekend preparing. I printed every document. I organized the doorbell clips into a timeline. I got a written statement from the tow yard clerk confirming the fake authorization. I got Carla's statement about the missing petty cash. I added the backdated notices, the fabricated emergency session email, and the access log showing I was not in the clubhouse during the alleged trespassing window. My folder was bulging with papers, and I had a second folder just for backups. Monday could not come fast enough. Monday morning, I got a call from a vendor dispatcher. She said Sharon Whitfield had requested that my address be flagged for delivery issues, and that future packages would require signature confirmation and an additional fee. I asked why. She said the request cited repeated theft complaints and uncooperative resident behavior. I told her that was false. She said the request came through official HOA channels and that her company had to honor it unless I could provide documentation proving otherwise. I asked for the name of the person who submitted the request. She said Sharon Whitfield, Gate Access Coordinator. I told her Sharon was the one stealing packages and framing me. She sighed. I am just the dispatcher, she said. You need to resolve this with your HOA. I asked if I could appeal the flag. She said I could submit a dispute form, but it would take 2 weeks to process. I hung up and called the tow yard clerk. I asked if he could attend the hearing as a witness. He said he could not leave work, but he would send a notarized statement confirming the fake authorization. I thanked him and added that to my folder. I called Carla and asked if she would attend. She said she would think about it, but she was scared of Sharon. I told her I understood and that I would bring her written statement either way. She wished me luck. At 5:45, I arrived at the clubhouse. The hearing was supposed to start at 6. I walked in and saw Sharon sitting at a table with 2 other board members, a man and a woman I recognized from community emails. Sharon looked up and smiled. "Glad you could make it," she said. "Take a seat." I sat down across from them and placed my 2 folders on the table. The male board member, a guy in his 60s with glasses, cleared his throat. "We are here to address 3 complaints filed by Sharon Whitfield," he said. "Theft of HOA packages, unauthorized exterior modification, and clubhouse trespassing. You will have a chance to respond to each charge. Sharon will present her evidence first." Sharon opened her folder organizer and pulled out a stack of papers. She placed them on the table one by one. The first was a complaint form alleging I had opened a package that was not mine. The second was a photo of my doorbell camera. The third was a sign-in log from the clubhouse showing my name and a timestamp. She tapped the log. "This shows you were in the clubhouse on a day when supplies went missing," she said. "You signed in at 3:10 in the afternoon. The supplies were reported missing at 4. You were the only person in the building." I looked at the log. The handwriting was not mine. I told them that. Sharon shrugged. "The log does not lie," she said. "Your name is right there." I pulled out my phone and opened my access log. I showed them the timestamp. "I was at work at 3:10, I said. "I entered the gate at 5:15. I could not have been in the clubhouse." Sharon leaned forward. "Access logs can be wrong," she said. "The sign-in log is physical evidence." The board members looked at each other. The woman, a middle-aged resident with short gray hair, frowned. "Do you have any other proof you were at work?" she asked. I pulled out a work order from that day, signed by a client and time-stamped at 3:30. I handed it to her. She looked it over, then passed it to the male board member. He nodded. "This does not match the clubhouse log," he said. "Sharon, can you explain the discrepancy?" Sharon did not miss a beat. "He could have forged the work order," she said. "Or he could have had someone else sign the log. The point is, supplies went missing and he had access." I pulled out Carla's statement about the missing petty cash. I handed it to the board members. "This is a statement from another resident who worked the community event where cash went missing," I said. Sharon was in charge of the cash. No deposit receipt was ever provided. No records were filed. If we are talking about theft, we need to look at the person who had access to HOA funds. Sharon's face went red. "That is slander," she said. "I filed the deposit. The records are confidential." I pulled out the email from the management company confirming there was no record of an emergency session. I handed that over too. "Sharon claimed the board met last week to review my complaint," I said. "The management company confirmed no meeting occurred. She is fabricating board actions and using them to threaten me." The male board member looked at Sharon. "Did you file a deposit receipt for the petty cash?" he asked. Sharon nodded quickly. "Of course I did. It is in the files." He asked where. She said the management company had it. He pulled out his phone and called the management company on speaker. The clerk answered. He asked about the deposit receipt for the community event. The clerk said she would check. A minute later, she came back. We do not have a deposit receipt on file for that event, she said. The last deposit we have from Sharon Whitfield was in March. The event was in June. The male board member thanked her and hung up. Sharon opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked at her folder organizer, then back at the board members. I must have filed it with the wrong company, she said. I will get it to you this week. The female board member leaned forward. Sharon, this is serious, she said. If you cannot provide the receipt, we need to investigate. Sharon shook her head. This is ridiculous, she said. You are taking his side because he has some forged documents. I have been working for this HOA for 8 years. He has been here for 2. The male board member held up a hand. We are not taking sides, he said. We are reviewing evidence. He looked at me. Do you have anything else? I pulled out the tow yard statement. I handed it over. This is from the tow company, I said. Sharon submitted a fake authorization for a vehicle that did not exist. The tow yard has records proving there was no car in my guest spot. She tried to charge me $95 for a tow that never happened. The female board member read the statement, then looked at Sharon. Is this true? She asked. Sharon did not answer. The male board member stood up. We need to take a recess, he said. Sharon, I need you to step outside while we discuss this. Sharon stood slowly, her key ring jingling. She looked at me, her eyes cold. This is not over, she said. She walked out. The board members looked at my folders, flipping through the documents. After 10 minutes, they called Sharon back in. We have decided to suspend the hearing pending a full investigation, the male board member said. Sharon, you are being placed on administrative leave from your coordinator role effective immediately. You will turn in your keys and access cards by the end of the week. Sharon slammed her hand on the table. You cannot do this, she said. I have already reported this. I can make this official with one phone call. The female board member shook her head. You already made it official, she said. And now we are responding. The hearing is suspended. If the investigation finds evidence of theft or fraud, the HOA will take further action, including possible termination and legal referral. Sharon grabbed her folder organizer and stormed out, her trench coat swishing behind her. The board members looked at me. We apologize for what you have been through, the male board member said. We will refund any fees tied to these complaints and issue a formal retraction. You are not under investigation. I thanked them and left, my folders still bulging with papers. Tuesday morning, I got an email from the management company. The investigation was ongoing, but Sharon had been removed from her coordinator role and her access to the HOA portal had been revoked. I was told a forensic audit of the portal would be completed within 2 weeks. Wednesday afternoon, I got a call from the male board member. He said the forensic audit had come back early. A portal export showed the complaint forms were uploaded from one device, all within a 10-minute window, and several of them had identical metadata timestamps despite claiming to be from different dates. Sharon had been fabricating complaints. The audit also found that the missing petty cash was never deposited. Sharon had kept it. The board scheduled a special meeting for Friday to formally terminate Sharon and refer the matter to local police. I was invited to attend. I showed up with my folders, but I did not need them. The board had everything. The meeting was short. Sharon did not attend. The board voted unanimously to terminate her, revoke her gate access, and file a police report for theft and fraud. They also voted to refund all fees associated with her fake complaints and to issue a formal apology to every resident she had targeted. The female board member looked at me. We failed you, she said. We trusted Sharon because she had been here so long, and we did not verify her claims. That was a mistake. I told her I appreciated the apology and that I hoped the next coordinator would be held to a higher standard. Saturday morning, I was loading groceries into my car when I saw Sharon in the parking lot. She was standing by the gate, talking to someone on her phone. She saw me and ended the call. She walked over, her key ring still in her hand even though her access had been revoked. "I need to talk to you," she said. I told her I had nothing to say. She stepped closer. "You ruined my life," she said. "I gave 8 years to this place. I built the access system. I handled enforcement. And you destroyed it with fake evidence." I told her the evidence was not fake. I told her the audit proved she fabricated complaints. She shook her head. "That is a lie," she said. "I can prove it." She pulled out her phone and started scrolling. She held it up, showing me a screenshot of a complaint form. "This is dated 2 weeks before you moved in," she said. "How could I have fabricated this if you were not even here yet?" I looked at the screenshot. The date was wrong. The timestamp was wrong. The metadata was wrong. I pulled out my phone and showed her the portal audit log screenshot I had saved. The form was uploaded 6 months after my move-in date, not before. The creation date on the file matched the upload date. Sharon looked at the screen, then at me. Her mouth opened, then closed. She put her phone away. "You are lying," she said. "The portal is wrong. The audit is wrong. Everyone is wrong except you." I told her the audit was completed by a third-party forensic firm hired by the board. She turned and walked toward the gate, her keyring jingling one last time. She tried to swipe her access card. The gate did not open. She tried again. Nothing. She turned back, her face red. "Let me in," she said. I told her I did not control the gate. She stood there for a moment, then walked away toward the street. The following week, a deputy came by to take my statement for the police report. I handed over copies of everything in my folders. He took notes and said the case would be forwarded to the prosecutor for review. He also said the missing items from the storage closet had been recovered during a search of Sharon's unit. My Bluetooth speaker was there, along with packages belonging to 4 other residents, petty cash from 2 events, and clubhouse supplies including folding chairs, a microphone, and a box of HOA letterhead. Sharon was charged with multiple counts of theft and fraud. The case was pending. A month later, the HOA held an election for a new gate access coordinator. I did not run. I had no interest in dealing with enforcement or access cards or any of it. A retired school teacher named Margaret won the role. She introduced herself at the next community meeting and said her first priority was transparency. She posted the new enforcement policies online, including a requirement that all complaints include photographic evidence and a witness statement. She also implemented a monthly audit of tow authorizations and access logs. The changes were small, but they mattered. Sharon never came back to Brookstone Village. The last I heard, she moved out of state, and the criminal case was still working its way through the system. The board refunded every fee tied to her fake complaints, and several other residents who had been targeted came forward with their own stories. The missing stash was discovered. The HOA had to refund fees, and Sharon was removed from her role. The tow yard clerk called me a few weeks later to say Sharon had tried to submit another authorization from a different complex in Ohio. The dispatcher recognized her name and flagged it. Her reputation followed her. I kept my folders. I kept the doorbell clips. I kept every receipt, every notice, every email. Not because I thought Sharon would come back, but because I learned the hard way that in an HOA conflict the paper trail is the only thing that matters. The moment Karen repeated her threat about making it official with one phone call, everyone heard it on the recording I had running on my phone during the hearing. The board played it back twice. She stammered. She tried to claim it was taken out of context. The recording did not lie. The funny karma beat was watching her own words destroy her credibility in real time. The HOA is quieter now. Margaret does not use a keyring as a prop. She does not backdate notices. She does not fabricate emergencies. And when a package goes missing, she checks the cameras, asks questions, and follows the process. It is boring. It is predictable. It is exactly what it should have been all along. Until next time, take care and stay safe out there.